Hi, my name's Jackie Witkin-Rashea and I'm from Bitterpill. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the history of copper and how it's used in stained glass. It's widely accepted that the Egyptians accidentally discovered stained glass, or the glass process, when firing their vessels. The earliest known man-made glass was discovered around 2750 BC and was in the form of hollow beads. Around the late 1800s, a patent was issued for what's considered to be the Tiffany method, or the copper foil technique. It's using copper foil, which is a thin copper tape with an adhesive back that's wrapped around each piece of glass. Prior to that, through the medieval times, lead cane was used, which looks like this. It's very pliable, but there are more benefits to use copper foil than in using lead cane. Copper foiling is much stronger than lead when soldered. It needs no putty, it needs no mastic, and is waterproof, and it allows you to do intricate patterns and designs where heavy lead would distract from the aesthetic of the project. Stained glass is actually made from firing high temperatures with silica and other minerals including potash, soda, lime, and lead with metals. For example, to achieve turquoise, copper is used in an oxide form, but if you want a really deep, rich red, copper in its pure metallic form is used. So we're going to get to know our tools a little bit. There are a lot, don't be intimidated, they're very easy to use. The first thing is really your computer. I like to start a lot of my drawings in Photoshop, print it out, and then move over to my light table. A light table is not a necessity, but it is excellent to have. I like to mark my patterns on translucent vellum. It's easy to use, easy to see through, and comes off when I'm ready to take it off. Once you're done with your pattern, what you're going to need is a set of pattern shears. These have a channel that runs up and removes a section of the paper to allow for lead lines. Once your patterns are glued to your glass, you are going to take out your glass cutter. I prefer to use a pistol grip oil-fed glass cutter. Once you have your glass cut, the surface you're actually cutting on is called a Morton board. It's just a plastic grid that provides a stable, flat surface to cut on, and shards of glass will fall through and just hit the grid rather than flying in every direction. Once you've made your cut with your glass cutter, you're going to use something called a running plier. I like to use a plastic one, but there are metal versions. You line up the top of the running plier, which has an indentation, and you snap it, and it helps to crack with glass. Once you cut your glass, you're going to take it over to a glass grinder. This is a very basic model, but it has a water well and then a diamond bit on top, which is what actually cuts the glass. Another tool that's going to be saving your fingers is this gripper, which you can use to feed the glass into the grinder so that it keeps it level and keeps your fingers away from the bit. Copper obviously plays an important role in stained glass. Copper foil is necessary to what we do. Copper comes in a lot of different widths and color backings, for example, black, silver, or copper colored, depending on the ultimate look of your project. Another tool that's not exactly necessary but is helpful is a foiler. Once you have your piece foiled, you need to burnish it or adhere it to the glass, and you can achieve that with a variety of fins, depending on the shape of your glass. Finally, we have a soldering iron, which again, as I mentioned, is extremely hot, so be very careful. With the soldering iron, we have what's called a fume trap. It's something that you plug in, it has a charcoal filter in the back, and it sucks the fumes from the soldering iron away from you. We have our 60-40 solder, a flux brush to use while we're working, and some aluminum stays to keep the glass in place before it's soldered together. So that's all the tools you need to get started.